That's a Ford Sierra. They made 1.2 million of them, and only 1/5% survive. And that's really the core of this Great British Car Journey collection. All of these kind of everyman cars that you used to see everywhere that have just disappeared. They've gone extinct. He started the collection when he was offered this car, I think, an immaculately preserved, very ordinary car. And you realised, there's loads of Jaguar sports cars, but none left. This one's particularly nostalgic for me. My granddad had one. He had a Hillman Hunter. This is badge engineered Humber Scepter. So, this reminds me of him bringing Easter eggs and broken Easter eggs. He was a sweet salesman back. Minis, everyone knows Minis. But this was Britain's best-selling car at one point, an Austin 1100 or 1300. My mum had one. It's a mini drivetrain, styled in Italy, a little bit more room inside, so there's proper legroom in the back, and an estate version. We used to have 3 of us across the back seat and a carry cot in the boot. So this used to be school runs. It rusted, needed some MOT welding. It burnt out in the garage having the welding done. So that's what happened to that car. So it's just full of these sort of nostalgic stories. Ford Cortinas. I remember them that colour, but I don't remember the interiors like that. It's just the same colour right the way through. The other thing with the styling of this one on the end is you'd think the white one was more modern, but actually the white one came before. That's kind of a Kennedy era clean-cut 60s, and this was kind of the end of the 50s. So 3 versions of the Cortina lined up. An ambulance. So these are small footprint cars, but inside's huge. You forget how big a small estate car used to be. So no wheel arch intrusion, obviously no crash structure, no headrests. So they were dangerous. But a lot more space inside than today. This is the inside of a Dormobile van, so a transit van. Again, quite small on the outside when you look at it, but plenty of space inside. Ford Capri, so a friend's boyfriend spun one on a puddle on the motorway, wrote her one off. They were lucky to survive. Front engine, rear wheel drive. Other people remember from the professionals. I remember TR7s, TR8s as rally cars with Tony Pond and seeing them in school. When I was at school, seeing them in the car park over the road. So it's nostalgic. 80s graphics, I think they're due a comeback. MG Metro. There's a collection of Metros here. So there's a lot of Austin Rover. It's the Great British Car Journey. I don't remember MGBs that colour. People respray them. Also the Wedge Princess, I don't remember those that colour. My little sister probably had one each of these when she was a student. They were good cars. So this is when Honda was involved. Range Rovers, which had a BMW era, now owned by the Indians. Lotus Esprit. A couple of friends had Jaguars. Bit of a relationship killer. Scimitar, always aspired to one of these. Everyone always says, oh, Princess Anne had one. Princess Anne had this one. So it's nice seeing the car phone inside and seeing her emblem on the front. We also like the horse on the bonnet. So we've forgotten bonnet mascots. Again, not very safe for pedestrians. So it's nostalgia all the way through. He has got a Jaguar there, but it's things like the Minis, a collection of Minis. So this is my era. My mum had one of these with that dashboard. That was my dad's first new car. I think within a couple of weeks, got hit by a truck. Again, the space utilisation, baskets under the seats, baskets each side, absolute genius design. So my second car was a Mini, had that dashboard. Ashtrays, just seeing ashtrays is nostalgic. So, a Mini, small. I'd forgotten about Granada coupes, which would have been, a working man's version of a Jensen. This was my aunt's dream car. I'm not sure it was Cliff Richard who turned her on to them, but, this was the Playboys Express, really was. Big American V8, built in the West Midlands, automatic. Back when that was a big upgrade, an automatic gearbox. So going back to the beginning, the whole thing's arranged by decades, and the first mass motoring was in Austin 7s, small car in miniature. So it just had the big crash, and Sir Herbert Austin went against his board, and this was kind of a skunk works project, him and a very young draftsman working on the billiard table. And there were cycle cars and motorbikes and sidecars, and he basically took a big car feel, shrunk it right down, and it became something that people could afford, or afford as a second car. So it got a lot of women driving. Kind of a wealthy middle class girl might drive a little sports car like that to the tennis club. All the way through, there's lots of period advertising, which is wonderful. So huge, great banners on the walls, small bits. And also when you go in, you get a mobile device where you can click on a QR code and see more about a particular vehicle. There's also an audio tour where they talk you through, the story of Austin, the story of the Americans coming in. Instantly recognisable, Landrover, this one heavily patinated. So YouTuber Hubnut will be disappointed to see it's been painted, but a very basic interior. The bodywork's aluminium because there were steel shortages, and it was built really as an agricultural vehicle. The army still trying to get rid of theirs. Something that I was really nostalgic for was the number plates, these kind of plastic number plates. So another post-war success were MG sports cars, and you'd think this was a pre-war car, but they just built what they could and shipped them to the US, and big sales success, export or die era. There are a few oddities in the collection as well. This one's called a Barclay. It's got 3 wheels, which avoids tax. You can drive it on a motorbike sidecar license. It's got a little motorbike engine made out of glass fibre by a caravan manufacturer to diversify. You see just how tiny that was compared with an MG Midget, which is a small car. Again, nostalgic for us. We've got one of those, needs putting back on the road. Here's the iconic E-Type. You can see just how small it is next to an MG Midget and those minis. My absolute favourite in the collection was this Sunbeam Talbot. It's most famous for To Catch a Thief film with Audrey Hepburn. Sterling Moss rallied these quite successfully on the Monte Carlo. It's one of those cars that's all but forgotten now. They also do a good job telling the story of the Roots Group and various marques, all but forgotten now. The Hillman Imp, which was built up in Scotland with out-of-work shipbuilders. Great design, construction not so good, not really a challenger to a Mini. Wolseley, another marque, all but forgotten. That brown car is a Rover P6, which was designed to take a gas turbine. Rover were heavily involved in the early development of the jet engine in the Second World War. This is Concorde era stuff, great ergonomics. So another one-off aside from the main narrative was this Rolls-Royce with a Baden-Powell connection of the Scout movement. But I really like this Ford pop down the far end that's sectioned so you can see the universal joints, you can see how the cable brake system works, you can see inside the gearbox, press the button, watch the engine whirl round. So this was post-war, built down to absolute minimum cost. So it's a sturdy thing, and they were popular. In contrast to Rover breaking new ground and being priced out really by Ford's accountants. I'm into putting special bodywork on Austin 7 chassis, and in the 50s they were doing the same on these Ford chassis and raced by the 750 Motor Club and others. Post-war, all the little racing car manufacturers that are now such a big industry started out doing that sort of stuff. And here's an early Lotus 7. You can just see how bare bones this is, with the little seats, bare aluminium, no carpets. What I really liked on the dashboard were the Dymo labels, and I came home and bought lots of colours of Dymo label to do the next dashboard. And just see how small it is next to Metros and Fiestas and things. And low cost, building your own chassis and putting Mazda MX-5 running gear in is still big hobby for people. And another diversion we had was to Great British Sports Cars, quite a successful manufacturer of Lotus 7 type cars. I didn't have time to look at the modern single-seater, but this is a Horstman, early 20s, competed in the Indianapolis 500 and at Brooklands. This is the only survivor. Incredible machine, beautifully put together. I love the bare aluminium. Nothing weighs nothing. Paint is a weight. Built like an aircraft. Lovely boat tail and point on the end. Just stripped down, bare bones, super slim. The final section is 1990 to date, and they're celebrating Derby. Toyota are built in Derby. Bentley, Rolls-Royce have Derby history. I've linked in the description to Hubnut's tour. He's been several times, and you can drive cars of this era. They've got a fleet. We like this Mini down the end. It's a Paul Smith special. He's a fashion designer, proud son of Nottingham. Other oddities I enjoyed: a little pedal car, now famous for racing at Goodwood. Less well known are these single-seaters that were made by the same company. The Car Sweets tin we loved. Their merch is great, and they've got this huge archive of advertising. During the week you can go just for the cafe, and we would. And I'm itching to go back again. So it's a strong recommendation.